All right. So, theoretically, I should be live. The match has not started yet, but from what I understand, it's about to start. So, let me see if I can intercept the game. No, it's not up yet. Let me just share the stream link with folks, and hopefully that's something I can do fairly easily. Yes, it should be something I can get away with. Okay. I probably, while I was doing that, missed the room being created. Yes, I did. Okay, that's okay. We're here. Okay, so this is a very interesting matchup. This is our last match of round one. Again, there's technically the first round was recorded via Twitch and should be uploaded to the channel hopefully later today, but we'll see about that. Uh, it'll be there. And so this is the last match, but the second to last that will be on the channel. So this is against Zicrown and Flapjacks. It is um it's going to be a very interesting match, I suspect. Because basically the two decks are pretty different and might play interestingly against each other. The two decks are Rocco and Leovold. So both of them have a combo element. Leovold has Wither Smog combo. Rocco has Food Chain combo. As well as Rocco also has a Heliod Walking Ballista combo. Heliod Walking Ballista and Spike Feeder. So Heliod Spike Feeder combo. So Rocco is very much a combo deck with an option to go mid range. And Leovold is very much a mid range deck with an option to go control a little bit, and then also possibly a little bit of combo. But they're not super dedicated to the combo. The combo is just a thing that can allow them to win out of nowhere. So we'll see what happens. I really don't know which of the two are favored. So we'll find out. I'm pretty excited for this. The last two matches were a bit of a one deck was kind of heavily disfavored. My game against Esper, which was the first match, was actually a very close and interesting game. So that should be really fun to watch when that's available. But this one could be interesting. This could really go either way. I don't think there is a clear favoring of one person over the other. It's definitely going to be a tough match. The big thing, if you're not familiar with Food Chain combo, Food Chain is an enchantment that allows you to exile a creature to add X mana, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value. And that can only be spent to cast creature spells, but the deck has a lot of creature spells. The main combo is if you get something like Squee the Immortal that can be cast from exile, you can cast Squee and then exile it with Food Chain, and then cast it from exile and exile it with Food Chain, and that will give you infinite mana. And from there, there's a bajillion ways to win. Rocco Cabaretti Caterer is a tutor in the command zone, and so once you have infinite mana, you just find whatever win con you feel like and win from there. Leovold is a much more controlling deck. This version has Inquisition, Thoughtseize, counter spells, removal spells, all of the different hate pieces. There are 11 creatures in the deck, not including the commander. So it's a fairly creature-light deck, which means that while it's technically classified as a mid-range deck, it can very easily lean control. And so I suspect we're going to see its controlling nature pop out in this match. It has a combo itself. Witherbloom Apprentice is a magecraft human druid that says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And so as long as you can find infinite copies of a thing, which Chain of Smog allows you to do, you can just leech your opponent out. So, we're seeing here both keeping their 7. Tameo turn 1. One of the big things about Leovold is that you are in Sultai, which means you have access to the best Dimir stuff, as well as the best Golgari stuff, and the best Simic stuff. And there are a lot of strong cards in those color pairs. Turn 1 of Delighted Halfling is a very scary start for Rocco. We'll see what happens there. Delighted Halfling provides uncounterability if it sticks around. Okay, we're seeing Brainstorm. Brainstorm will flip Tameo, which is a very potent thing. So we'll see what happens there. Rocco can pivot to be a mid-rangey deck if needed, if their combo gets stopped in one way or another. And so Tameo is really good at stopping that mid-range from mid-ranging. But possibly more importantly, you can get back removal spells and interaction. I suspect we'll be seeing some nonsense here from Rocco. Yep, Guide of Souls is pretty nonsensical. Yep, Orcish Lumberjack. This is a card that you really only see in Rocco because it gives you an insane amount of mana to cast out Rocco. Rocco X equals 3 will give you Moonblessed Cleric, which will in turn tutor for Food Chain. So, it is more or less a 1-card combo with the deck. Because once you get Food Chain, it is very likely that you're going to be able to chain into Squee. So we're seeing a Fatal Push on the Delighted Halfling, which is a very interesting choice considering Orcish Lumberjack. We're also seeing a Mist to Land drop for the 2nd turn in a row, which is incredibly bad news for Flapjacks. So I'm curious to see what happens there. You don't want to be missing those lands. I think they were betting on Brainstorm getting them what they need, and it did not pay off. Yep, so we're seeing here probably going to turn things into a total of 6 mana, which should be Rocco X equals 3, to get a Moonblast Cleric. And that will in turn grab food chain and put it on top. So that next turn, they can sack their board and then recast Rocco to get Squee on the field to get infinite mana to win. That is the play pattern. Guided Soul is getting in some damage on Tamio because why not? Okay, recasting Brainstorm, hoping for a land, hoping for a miracle. And there's nothing. Okay. That was a very unfortunate game one. So we'll see what game two looks like. It could certainly be interesting. There's no sideboards yet. This is a best of 5. So it'll be similar to the first game. Hopefully not with one land this time. Oh, interesting. So, fetching in response to a fetch. What nonsense. Okay, it's just going to be underground sewers. Undercity sewers. Theoretically, Stifle is a legal card in the format. They could Stifle if they really wanted to. Okay. Turn 1 Ragavan. Very scary and annoying card. More importantly, here it's going to be a ramp piece if it is left unchecked. Which it will not be. Okay. Yes, I'm hoping that... I realize that I have not been on a Discord channel, which I don't think should interfere with my OBS. But if you are just now hearing me, I apologize. Not that there was much eventful going on in that first game. But I think I'm probably fine. Okay, turn 2 Voice of Victory. Very interesting. So, Voice of Victory is mostly here to be a way to combo off uninterfered with. It is also fairly solid for that beatdowns plan. A 2-mana 3/3, more or less, is solid in just about any deck. Okay. We're seeing Leovold come out. Leovold is a very pesky card because any removal essentially goes 2 for 1 against it, which you do not want to see. Okay, we're seeing just a running out of food chain. This is going to be a problem for Leovold if they can't answer it. Theoretically, you could swing with the Voice of Victory, and now it would, because of Leovold being on the field, that wouldn't gain you anything. But they are doing it anyway, which is a very interesting choice. Because here you are dealing 2 damage and generating 2 mana. Instead of generating 3 mana from just exiling Voice of Victory. But I guess when you have John Boros, it works out. Now, I call Ajani Nakatl Pariah John Boros because he was very, very scary. About a year ago, actually, when he was legal as commander. And also, he's a Johnny, so he's a John and a Boros card. The backside is red. So, John Boros, we love him. Well, I have a love-hate relationship with him. Okay. So, just whacking in for 3. There's a world in which they could technically block the Cat Warrior and flip a Johnny, but that probably won't work out for him. Yes, incredibly importantly, they need to remove things now because Food Chain is a mana ability and therefore does not use the stack. And so you cannot respond to anything being exiled for Food Chain. Okay, they're holding up 1 black mana. I honestly don't think that'll be anything. There's a very good chance that they can get away with casting Rocco here. Because basically every creature generates them a net 1 mana. So right now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, which is theoretically enough. Yep, so they are going for it. Theoretically speaking, if there was a daze, it could get messy. No, there's not a daze. So there's Squee the Immortal. And all you need to do from here is get infinite mana, cast Rocco a bunch of times. Theoretically, you can poop out your whole board if you want to, but Molten Gatekeeper is the win con here. There are plenty of other ways to win. Theoretically, Walking Ballista Eternal Witness is a fairly standard one, but Molten Gatekeeper works as well. So, Flapjacks needs to win all 3 of the next games. Now, there are some powerful cards in their sideboard against them. So, they're probably going to be siding in Chill and Disruptor Flute as ways to tax both Rocco and Squee. And then have Natural State, and Spell Pierce for extra ways to stop Food Chain from doing its thing. Alright, I do apologize. I'm repositioning my computer. Usually I have a more high quality mic, but for these types of streams, I don't need to have a quality mic. You're here for the gameplay, not me talking. So I just need a good enough mic. Uh, hopefully that repositioning didn't mess with anything. What does Rocco have against Leovold here? I mean, Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, and Redirect Lightning are 3 ways to stop counterspells, as well as Veil of Summer. So there are 4 ways to stop counterspells, which they'll probably put in. But and then there's also Allosaurus Shepherd, which stops green spells from being countered, which is usually all that matters, right? Food Chain's green, and so is Rocco. So, we're almost ready to game, but there's a lot of humming and hawings. The stakes are understandably very high, especially for Flapjacks here, who has miserably lost the first 2 games. Now, frankly, I think the first game where they just got one land and couldn't draw into more was absolutely not their fault. They took a gamble, it didn't pay off, but statistically speaking, that should pay off. You should get a land in a brainstorm pile. Especially, I believe they were on the draw. So, but that's the name of the game. Some people kind of forget that just how variance heavy Magic the Gathering is as a whole, as well as Tiny Leaders, especially being a 50 card singleton format, is going to have a lot of variance. However, when you have a tutor in the command zone, like you do with Rocco, you can mitigate a lot of that variance. So that's the really powerful thing. We saw that with Light Paws as well, of just sheer consistency. Okay, Island Ponder Keep. A classic phrase for a reason. Theoretically, they could also just have more lands, but I like to think that it's Island Ponder Keep. And they just have one island and one ponder. Because it makes it more exciting. All right. So, yep, counterspelling the dork. Very reasonable. We saw game 2 how much mana dorks give to this deck. Turn 2, immediate Disruptor Flute, probably naming Rocco. Of course, they're not generous enough to jot down what's being named. Nope. Okay, we got it. Awesome. It is Rocco. There are ways to remove that. They're in green and white. Those are both very good artifact removal colors. Red has a little bit, but not as efficient as green and white does. So it's very much not over. And also, Disruptor Flute is something you can play through. That just means that they need Rocco X equals 8, essentially. Or they need to pay 8 mana for Rocco, is what I mean to say. Okay, Green Suns for 1, grabbing a Deathrite Shaman. Interesting. Yeah, that's because they're low on mana. Okay. Well, that is incredibly unfortunate. So it seems it probably was an Island Ponder keep. Oh, it would be so rough if they got knocked out here just because of being mana starved. But again, variance happens. So we'll see. I think if Zicrown has removal, they should absolutely use the removal on the Deathred Shaman. Yep, no reason not to swing here. Alright, more mana dorks. You're seeing how quickly the deck can get up to speed. Okay, no removal for the Deathred Shaman. So, does Flapjacks have a way to recover from being a bit mana screwed? Because frankly, if you can't do anything, Rocco can very easily pivot to a mid-range plan and just beat you down. Johnny has yet another 2-mana 3/3. So we're already seeing 2 of those in the deck. Theoretically, Badger Mole Cub is also in the deck, and that's 2-mana 3/3 as well. Okay. Munching the Foothills, casting Barrowglyph. That is a good way to stop any sort of mid-ranging from happening. Barrowglyph is a respectable 3/4 with Death Touch and Lifelink. You can probably still swing the cat into it because you don't want to flip a Johnny. But otherwise, the beatdowns is no longer as effective as they used to be. Up to 5 mana. So you're seeing here that if that Avacyn's Pilgrim has stuck around and the Disruptor Flute was not played, they would be turn 4 casting Rocco. And that would be, frankly, fairly slow for the deck. You could also see here that if you had very good variance, if you had both Food Chain and Squee in hand, you could just win on the spot. Legolas' Quick Reflexes on the Barrowglyph, using it as a removal spell. Barrowglyph probably dispatching a Johnny and gaining them 3 life. As well as, obviously, Barrowglyph whacking in. So we'll see if Zicrown blocks. I think if they don't block with the Cat Warrior token, it's because they have some nonsense that they're planning with Food Chain. But no, they're blocking. They probably don't have Food Chain in hand. If they did, they probably would have cast it last turn. Holding up 2 mana. Flapjacks probably has interaction. Still no land drops, though. Still stuck on that 2 mana, theoretically 3 mana with Deathrite. Paying 3 for Ranger Captain. Ranger Captain is a great way to stop your opponents from interacting with you, as well as just being that beefy body. So, a lot of upside for this deck. You're seeing kind of a theme of each creature is going to generate more than a creature's worth of mana for Food Chain, right? So Llanowar Elves will generate essentially 3 mana because it can tap and then generate 2 for Food Chain. A Johnny generates 3 mana plus 1 for the Cat Warrior token. And Ranger Captain is generating 5 mana, essentially. Yep, just grab a standard Birds of Paradise. I probably would have grabbed an Orcish Lumberjack, but I don't know what's in their hand. Sure, tapping Llanowar Elves for it. Not at all suspect. It's worth noting that I don't play Leovold or Rocco, so any sort of gameplay tips that I give should be taken with a massive grain of salt, as these are not decks that I pilot. Okay, more juice for Deathrite. Grows the Goyf. Now, once again, they have access to black mana, because before they actually couldn't use Deathrite Shaman. So this is a very weird position to be in, because usually you would have removal for Deathrite Shaman is the thing. Okay, Worldly Tutor. Worldly Tutor is probably going to just tutor for, uh, basically be a pseudo Rocco tutor for that Moonblast Cleric, if I were to take a guess. There are other things you could tutor for. There's the secondary combo of Heliod Spike Fear or Heliod Ballista, and so if you have one of those in hand, you could tutor for the other half. And theoretically, you could tutor for, I think there's Skyclave, yes. Skyclave to get rid of either the Barrogoyf or the Deathrite Shaman, depending on how risky you want to be. Probably correct to get rid of Barrogoyf, though. Assuming it doesn't get countered, which is also a real possibility. Is it resolving? Yes, it is. Okay. Yep, getting rid of Barrogoyf. That's probably the safe choice. Deathrite Shaman would... Getting rid of Deathrite Shaman would put them down black mana, which could be really pivotal, but as long as you have a Barrogoyf sticking around, it doesn't really matter. Barrogoyf can just be a big chunky guy that keeps on slapping turn and turn again. Very insightful comment by Wiloj. And by insightful, I mean biased. Okay, we're tainted pacting. What do you want in a tainted pact? Uh, Theoretically, you could pull off the Withersmog combo if you have that. But that's a big if. Maybe if you really want to set them off, you could grab Toxic Deluge to wipe the board. They seem to be really thinking about that Green Suns. Okay, they're just grabbing Green Suns. Interesting. Very interesting. Is it setting up for a slow combo with Witherbloom Apprentice? Or is there something more at work here? Chill. Okay. Well, Chill is a very good card. Rocco costs an extreme amount. Well, would cost an extreme amount if Chill would resolve, which Red Elemental Blast does not allow. Okay. 2 cards in hand. Solid board state. not enough mana to cast Rocco even through the Disruptor Flute. Theoretically speaking, you have up to 7 mana. So could Rocco X equals 1? Yeah. And you need 9 mana to go up to X equals 3. Okay, just whacking in, have a decent clock going. What do they do here? I probably wouldn't bother tapping out to Rocco X equals 1. Theoretically, you could get something like Guide of Souls, but that seems like a bad idea. Well, especially when you have Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness can grab, let's see, probably a Johnny, possibly Worldly Tutor. Red Elemental Blast if you're really scared of counterspells. Definitely not Avacyn's Pilgrim. Yeah, Worldly Tutor is a valid choice. Using that, tutoring up something. Probably trying to go for the combo here. No, Jolly Balloon Man. Okay. Yeah, that's very reasonable. Jolly Balloon Man, if Eternal Witness is still around, basically allows you to loop Worldly Tutor. And if Skyclave is still around, lets you basically get rid of cards like Disruptor Flute, which can free Rocco. So that is an incredibly dangerous card. If Flapjacks had a Toxic Deluge, this is when I would use it, honestly. They are theoretically holding up Counter Magic, which you can sacrifice the Ranger Captain of Eos to prevent if you are really scared. Okay, Jolly Balloon Man, will it resolve? 6 cards in hand. One of those gotta be a counterspell, right? Could theoretically be a removal spell, but let's see. Flapjacks is thinking on it. Let's Jolly Balloon Man resolve. Okay. Then probably just copy Skyclave. Get rid of Disruptor Flute. Free Rocco. Ranger Captain. Interesting. Very interesting. So, Ranger Captain is going to do spooky things. This is a fairly safe play because if they need to remove Ranger Captain, they could do that. But I would probably still get rid of. Okay. Okay. I would have gotten rid of Jolly Balloon Man. Again, I don't know what's in their hand, and I don't play these decks. So, they probably know better than I do. But with my probably poor knowledge of the matchup, I would get rid of Jolly Balloon Man because Jolly Balloon Man is horrifying right now. And pretty much always. I mean, look at what he's doing to those poor guys' heads. Okay. So finally, after however many turns, got a third land. I think. Okay. Abrupt Decay on Jolly Balloon Man. Very reasonable. I wonder if Flapjack has the Witherspawn combo in hand and is just waiting to get enough mana to instantly rip it. Basically, if they have Chain of Smog, they can use Green Sun Zenith to tutor up with their Bloom Apprentice. Oh no. Oh no. Does Flapjacks have a counterspell? Flapjacks really, 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 really needs to have a counterspell here. Okay, they do not. They probably lose. Sure. Yeah, you can swing. Yeah. Passing the turn. That's incredibly strange. Why can't you just win from there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You definitely have enough to Rocco grab what's his face? Squee. So I don't know why. Maybe playing it safe. Theoretically countering Rocco would be a really big blowout. You'd lose your board and have Rocco be really expensive. I don't know. Yep, there's Witherbloom Apprentice. So they just drew into it. Okay. And still theoretically holding up. Do they have? Are they bluffing with Deathrite? I mean, let's see. Yeah, they are. They don't have a way to activate Deathrite Shaman. So maybe they have a blue Elemental Blast to counter Rocco? I don't know. Because they currently only have one blue up. So I don't know what Zicrown is going to do. They're up 2 games, so I don't know. Maybe this is me being a bit silly. I would probably take the risk because you're up 2 games. If you lose, if you gamble and you're wrong, uh, it could just work out. But I don't know. I think you'd probably need to be in a more desperate situation than this. Because right now, Flapjacks is already on the back end. But Chain of Smog, yep, just wins the game. So I don't know if they had a counterspell in hand. They could have had a counterspell in hand for Rocco. If they didn't, and they were bluffing, if you just cast out Rocco, you would have died. So that's the real question is, do you just go for it and maybe your opponent doesn't have it, or do you play it safe and hope they don't have Chain of Smog? But I think if they played out Witherbloom Apprentice, that is like telegraphing that you have Chain of Smog. So I don't know. I just don't know. Obviously, if they had both a counterspell and Chain of Smog, it wouldn't have mattered. But, you know. Yeah, Riptide Researcher. Uh, this is a top 8 event of theoretically the top 8 players in the Discord server uh, playing best of 5 single elimination bracket to find out if that happens. But yeah, basically, it's a highly competitive event where we're just seeing very strong decks play against each other with very strong players. And yeah, Willoja, I do 100% agree with you. I think you probably just go for it, but okay. So Zicrown keeping 6, Flapjack's keeping 7. Yep, Thoughtseize, very bad for him. Veil of Summer, very good for him. Never mind. Cool. So that just is more or less a 2-for-1, right? You're stopping the Thoughtseize and drawing a card. So that's kind of sort of undoing the mulligan. right? That immediate card loss. Okay. Guide of Souls, tap Stomping Ground. Guide of Souls is a good card, so. Alright. Psychic Frog. Psychic Frog, Destroyer of Formats. But admittedly, he is a silly little guy. Yep. You gotta pen the Psychic Frog. It is just a ridiculously strong card, and so if you can remove it, you should remove it. There have been multiple occasions where I went, oh, Psychic Frog can't be that bad. I'll just play to my game plan and immediately get punished for it. Okay, so here we are hitting land drops. We're officially hitting land drops. Very important. They managed to win off of the low land count last time, but still. Leavold needs to win the next 2 games, which frankly is possible, but it's an uphill battle for sure. Okay, Ancient Tomb is spooky. Rocco X equals 2? No, Moloch X equals 2. Okay. Keeping up a colorless mana to play around days, I guess. Might as well. 1 extra power, doesn't matter. Yep, blow up Tamio. So, right now you're seeing that really Flapjacks has card advantage right now, with going into their turn with 4 cards in hand. Against Zicrown's 2, it should be pretty rough, to say the least. Obviously, depending on what is played. If there's a Thoughtseize, it's a bad time. However, Moloch's a big body, so we'll see. Yep, just cast out Leovold. Might as well. Leovold's going to push that card advantage even further. Oh my god. Off the top, Surveil Uro to the bin is insane. If you have a fetch land, you can just get Uro next turn. But you can never let down your guard against Rocco, is the thing. And that's what makes the mid-range game plan so strong, is that you always have to hold up mana to repel the combo aspect. And yeah, we're seeing here a lot of mana being generated. Theoretically, that is going to be 6 mana, which is the golden number. It also provides enough energy to make Moloch fly. Or Guide of Souls. Either one. I guess Moloch's big enough so that you could just have Guide of Souls fly and Moloch as the ground beats. I assume they don't block here. Just take the 7. Or do that. Probably lose Leovold, but get rid of Moloch. It's a decently fair trade. Leovold to the grave because that's the final card you need to cast out your boy. But again, unless you... It would be a risky thing to do if you don't have a land and don't have any sort of interaction. Okay, you do have a land. You probably have some sort of interaction. It's fine. You just run out Uro here. Control the ground game. Set up a threat. And then if they try to go for it, have some sort of interaction. Or at the very least, threaten interaction. Which sometimes works just as well. I think Zicrown is a fairly cautious player and is probably not going to risk it unless absolutely necessary, as we saw in Game 3. Okay. 4 cards in hand, so Zicrown's 1. This is incredibly bad for them. So bad, in fact, that I might be tempted to just run out Rocco and hope for the best. Hope that it's a bluff. Because even if you get rid of Uro, you are still going to get absolutely swamped in card advantage. So, sure, you have more creatures, you have a better board state, but that's not going to stay that way for very long. Okay. Eternal Witness, grab Moloch. That's very reasonable. Yep. Cast Moloch, get rid of Deathrite. Have enough power to kill Uro if it attacks. Also getting 2 energy. Okay, that's a solid way to stabilize, for sure. You're also dealing chip damage with Molten Gatekeeper. Yep, exiling Pending. Leech you 2 before it goes. You probably just swing with, Guide of Souls. Put on that pressure. Fire Flapjacks, I would swing with Uro anyway. Force them to lose their board. At least a good portion of it. Or potentially just have to chump, and then you gain 3 life, draw a card. Let's see what Zicrown decides. Okay. Land off Uro. You now have a lot of mana. But all the mana in the world doesn't matter if you can't get rid of that Guide of Souls. Okay, Zicrown is just taking 6. Once upon a time, grab a creature, hopefully. Theoretically, you do have a land drop still, so. We're going to see. Well, or do that, or just win. That's a completely viable option as well. Yeah, so that's really the power of um Leovold, of this build of Leovold, is that Withersmog is a real threat in the deck, and you can just win out of nowhere no matter your position. So we are moving on to game 5. So this is 2-2. This game decides who goes on and who stays behind. Rocco is on the play, which is very bad news for Flapjacks. Rocco on the play is bad news Bears. But you do what you can. Okay. Are both people keeping their 7? It looks like that. Yes. Okay. Rocco, there's 2 bajillion 1-drops in the deck. Guide of Souls is one of those. If Rocco doesn't have a 1-drop, something's wrong. For reference, just because there are 8 1-drops, 8 1-drop creatures in the deck that Zicrown is playing. So, yeah, you're you're gonna have a 1-drop in hand. Leovold, on the other hand, has a lot less. Let's see. Leovold has 2 1-drops. Not even playing Netherglyph, interestingly enough. Guy Soul's Ocelot Pride. We love MH3. Uh, just nonsense on top of nonsense. And the spooky thing about this is that it's both a potent clock of having Guide of Souls Ocelot Pride, but even if you get rid of one, you still have a solid clock, and you have a lot of bodies for if you draw Food Chain. Because that's the other thing. If you have Food Chain in hand, there are lines that allow you to win for Rocco X equals 2. So, for example, Zicrown, if Zicrown has Food Chain in hand or top decks Food Chain and that goes uninterrupted, that would be game ending. They could pay 3, munch their board, cast Rocco, get a something like a Johnny, munch a Johnny, Rocco, and the token, recast Rocco, and win. But obviously, you're not going to go for it when your opponent has 7 cards and 2 mana up. Yep, annoy the guide. Yep. However, as I said, that you're now still in the same position. Next turn, if you have Food Chain, you can just rip it if they get tapped out. And until then, you are winning on board presence. 7 permanents, 3 away from that 10 for the city's blessing. Okay. Psychic Frog. More MH3. Tap land. Okay. So, if you have Food Chain, you probably win the game. That's just how it is. Sure. Yeah. Red Blast the Psychic Frog. Might as well. Even if you don't have Even if you don't have Food Chain, you're whacking in for at least 3. Swing for 3. If you get a creature... Honestly, this might be a case of Rocco X equals 1, get the city's blessing. No, not quite. Not going to be that greedy. Because obviously a board wipe absolutely blows you out there. Voltamia. Once again tapped out. Top deck Food Chain wins. That's the thing that I think is kind of ridiculous about Rocco, is that if you just have Food Chain in hand with any sort of board state, you're just going to win. Yep, Rocco, X equals 6, uncounterable. Well, X equals 3, 6 mana. Rocco, grab the thing to grab Food Chain to threaten the win next turn. Now, theoretically, Flapjacks could do the thing that they did the previous 2 games and just have Withersmog combo. That solves all your problems. Notably, you also now have the city's blessing. So, Ocelot Pride, if you can gain some life, is going to generate 2 cats. I don't think that stops you from tutoring. Okay. Okay. You could also just tutor up a Skyclave Apparition, get rid of Leovold, swing in for damage. But I probably would have got the Moonblast Cleric. But again, take any sort of judgment or advice that I have with a huge grain of salt. I don't play either of these decks. I just play against these decks. I don't know what is the objectively correct play or not, especially because I can't see their hands. So, do not take my word as gospel. I'm not that good at the game. So, we are now at the point of Cat Swarm. Flapjacks needs to win the game or have a board wipe. There are, I believe, 2 board wipes in the deck post-board, if I remember correctly. No, one board wipe post-board, and that is, no, 2. Yes, Meathook Massacre and Toxic Deluge are both in the sideboard. I would probably bring those in against this deck, so... You definitely cannot use Gemstone Caverns to cast a Llanowar Elf, but it does not matter. Technically speaking, I should probably point that out, but it doesn't matter. They could just have a different land. Okay. Long Goodbye on Skyclave. Because of the way commanders work, they do not get a 3/3 illusion because by the time Skyclave dies, Leovold is not exiled. If they could get an illusion, that would be really cool right now, but they can't, so they just block a cat, take a bunch of damage, I assume. Yeah. Okay. Decisive moment. Do you have a board wipe? Or do you have the combo? And if you don't, you're out of the SCT. You technically have another draw with Tamio. Oh, Yavimaya allows them to tap Gemstone Caverns. Okay, I've caught up now. It wasn't an illegal play. It also wouldn't matter even if they couldn't. Okay, swing with Tamio. This either means they don't have the board wipe and need the clue, or they have the board wipe and Tamio's going away anyway. The answer is they do not have the board wipe. They need to top deck a board wipe. Did they do it? Or are they dead? That is Nadu. Nadu is great. Nadu will not help you. Okay. Well, that is round one. Uh, Zicrown wins 3-2. Flapjacks was a mighty fighter, but a horde of cats was enough. Witherbloom off the top, if they had Chain of Smog. They did have Chain of Smog. That's rough. That is brutal. So they were one card away from winning. You hate to see it. Yeah, and that's variance for you. Again, if there are many points in the game that if Rocco had Food Chain in hand, would instantly win. There are many points in the game where Leovold had a board wipe in hand, would probably win fairly quickly. There were many moments where Withersmog would have just won. So when I say that like this is the top 8 players playing in the Discord, put massive air quotes around that because things could easily go very, very differently. You could easily have a different set of people. You could easily have a different person who wins this tournament. That is not to say that these aren't very skilled people. These are 100% some of the best players in the Discord. They fought hard to get to this top spot through, I believe, 4 different rounds of tournaments to get here. So it is very much these are the best of the best, but not necessarily the definitive top 8, right? So keep that in mind as we move into round 2 shortly. I believe there's a world in which round 2, game 1 will start up either later tonight or tomorrow. There's also a world where it'll be a little bit. Hopefully I'll have that 4th round of round 1 uploaded by then, but no promises. But until then, stay tuned and stay tiny.